Guest right now, Dr. Gerard Lameiro is joining us right now to talk more about some of this testimony that we've got going on. Dr. Lameiro, how are you?
I am doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's good to hear from you again.
Yeah.
So what's your take? I mean, obviously, we got you on here to talk a little bit more about Director Comey's testimony earlier this week, but since then there have been some fairly big developments in this case.
Wow, there's so much going on right now. We've got, the Gorsuch hearings. We have the health care bill in limbo. And we also have what could be a huge story, maybe the biggest story of the year, about whether or not Obama has spied on an incoming president.
Yeah, the Democrats, including Adam Schiff earlier, came out and said that he blasted the president again for claiming that. But now it's looking more and more like that this is just a matter of semantics, whether it was wiretapping or electronic surveillance, or whether it was directly Barack Obama's fault, or it was his director of national intelligence, or it was his attorney general. I mean, that's still connected to the Obama administration.
It certainly is. And, of course, something that we were all sort of a little suspicious, I think it was January 19th, right before the inauguration, one of the last things Obama did was say that the NSA, he basically allowed the NSA to share intelligence with the other 16 intelligence agencies in Washington. And everybody's sort of wondering, well, now, why did he do that right before the inauguration? And was he actually doing it all along, but then had to make it a policy, seeing as how Hillary lost the election? And that in itself was startling. But it's looking more and more to me like it's going to come out eventually that there was surveillance of some type. Trump in his tweet, I remember that tweet quite a bit. It came out around 6 a.m. in the morning, East Coast time, back a few weeks ago on a Saturday.
Right.
And he had put the word wiretapping in quotes, which meant he meant any type of surveillance or listening in or whatever, intelligence type activities. And so I never thought it was an actual wiretap. I figured it was more some other type of electronic eavesdropping. But whatever it was, it looks more and more like something did happen. And I'll tell you, it cuts the line very easily about going into something that's criminal, because the agencies are not allowed to release information on private American citizens, and Donald Trump was a private citizen at the time. Especially a citizen who's going to become a president in a few months, and release that to others. Unmask them is the word they use in the intelligence community, meaning you let their identities out. And so I think there's a lot of potential here for problems. And then we had Comey say that it all started in July. In his testimony, on that Monday testimony, he said this goes back to July. Well, back in July, wasn't that when Obama was saying the Russians have nothing to do with the election? There's no way they can tap into it. I mean, he said that I think as late as October.
Right.
But they were laughing at Trump when Trump was concerned that maybe things were going on. And here they were doing this type of investigation back then. So there's all sorts of things going on here. And then I was really amused the day after Comey's testimony on Tuesday, when some of the Clinton campaign people came out and said they were really mad at Comey because he talked about the investigation of Trump, but he never mentioned the investigation of Hillary at the moment, and he had flipped it back during the campaign. And he talked about Hillary's investigation relative to the email scandal, and he didn't mention that Trump was being investigated at the same time for something else.
A problem that I see here along with that is the culpability of the mainstream media in this country. If I accuse you, Dr. Lameiro, of fabricating something, that's a pretty serious charge, that you've come up with something out of the blue that has no basis in fact. Listen to this introduction by Major Garrett, CBS News reporter, the other morning, discussing this story with Donald Trump. This is before this is just as the Nunes claim was breaking. Listen to the words that the reporter used.
Good morning. For weeks, the White House has fiercely defended the fiction that President Obama had Trump Tower wiretapped. And then that changed to, well, if it wasn't wiretapping, it was some nasty bit of surveillance. Well, now the House chairman of the committee overseeing the investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 election says he's found something, just not wiretapping.
He refers to it as fiction. I mean, he draws the conclusion that it's fiction, and then he kind of insinuates that whatever Nunez found, it wasn't wiretapping, so that justifies his calling it fiction. I don't get it.
Yeah, he's also implying that it had something to do with the Russians, which apparently this particular evidence, as he indicated in his news conference, or his original announcement this week, was nothing to do with Russians. This was totally independent, which would mean just plain old surveillance on the transition team of Donald Trump, which is a very serious matter and could potentially be criminal and could be the unraveling of any legacy Obama might claim.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Gerard Lameiro, listen, I appreciate you joining us today. I'll tell people you've got your book out, Great News for America. In fact, people can go to your website to learn more about the book and all of your writings at greatnewsforamerica.com. Thank you so much for your time.
You have a great day.
You too, sir. Have a great weekend. Appreciate him giving us some time today to kind of tear this apart.